This week on Painting Lines.
I would like to hit second serves, and my brother would like throw balls at me or put ice cubes in my shorts and stuff like that. I'm basically just on this quest to kind of like conquer tennis, if that makes sense. The number one thing I've changed that's helped me is I just
Ready? Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we broke down Barcelona for you, and this week we're excited to bring on a special guest today, Cole Schultz. You may know him on social media as Cole Schultz Tennis, where he documents his journey of striving to play professional tennis at 24 years old. He travels all over the country, training with ATP pros, and shares what he learns with his followers. Cole played Division One tennis at Toledo University and is also the co-owner of Launchpad Tennis. Welcome on, Cole. Excited to talk to you today.
hey guys, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for that. A really nice intro.
Yeah, you got it. So Aiden, actually, funny story, he's the one who found your account and he sent it to me. He'd be like, hey, this is a cool guy to have on. And I was just infatuated. I spent probably an hour like looking at your page, looking at all the tips and workouts, and I've actually started to incorporate some of the workouts, like all the single leg stuff. So really
Oh, cool.
big fan of
Awesome.
the single leg press.
All right. Well, yeah, that was one part of this that I did not expect was so much, so many people reaching out to me, like telling me they were using what I was putting up on Instagram and YouTube, TikTok. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got to be a good feeling. So let's just jump in. Let's start with your background here. I'm curious to know, when did you start playing tennis and how you got into it?
Yeah, so I started playing tennis really young, like 4 years old, and kind of got into it by accident. Like found a racket in the garage and went out in the yard and was just like hitting balls over the house. And my parents were kind of like, "Well, this isn't going to work," so took me to a court. But I think the drive for tennis, and I don't know how true this is, but my dad got cut from his high school tennis team. And I don't think he ever forgot that. So that was probably a big drive, maybe early on when he realized that me and my brother were, you know, relatively talented at least. So,
So would you say your dad was trying to live vicariously through you? Was he like a
I mean,
crazy tennis dad or no?
he's gonna listen to this and he's gonna say no way. But I think maybe just a tiny
Yeah.
little part held a grudge against that high school coach. So.
There we go. That's good to hear. I mean, so was the goal here always to go pro? Like when you first started playing, I'm sure you worked your way up through juniors. You started to see a lot of success early on. Like, when did this kind of become a dream for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think most young tennis players probably dream that they're going to be professionals. But really, when it became kind of like an actual goal, I would say I was about 12 or 13, and I had some pretty good results in like Midwest junior tournaments, stuff like that. And my family kind of made the call that it was time to move us to a better tennis location. I was up in like really far northern Michigan where there wasn't much tennis. So they moved me down to Indianapolis, and that's like, much better tennis hub. And then it was started to be like, okay, you got 5 years or whatever to make something out of this before college, and we'll see where we end up.
Nice. So did you go to an academy? Was that what
Uh,
that was?
I don't know if you call it an academy. Nishesh Basavareddy and Rajiv Ram. They're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Brian Smith. So I worked at like Smith Tennis for I think basically from the start of my freshman year all the way through high school. And at for like 2 years I was online schooled, so kind of on like an academy
Mhm.
schedule, really trying to give it, throw everything against the wall, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's the thing about tennis. It's such a commitment early on. Like you don't really have a normal school life or anything. Like I feel like most sports you can just play on your high school team and you have a pretty good chance of getting recruited. Whereas tennis, you got to likely go away from home. You got to be like taking lessons. You can really only play tennis. I mean, I don't know, did you play other sports growing up too, or was it just tennis?
Yeah, so my dad's background, he owns martial arts and fitness schools. That was like what we did growing up. So the whole time I was playing tennis, I was doing that stuff kind of in the background, and that definitely built some like athletic skills and coordination and balance. But the same time when I moved to Indianapolis, it was like, all right, cut out martial arts. You're just going full in on tennis. And besides that, I don't even think I played maybe one t-ball game, but that was it. So,
Yeah.
Like Eric said, it's very much
I feel like that's a pattern we've seen with a lot of players we've had on is like you have to commit super early if you're going to find any success.
Yeah, or you're like ridiculously talented. I know a few guys who started later and had a ton of talent or whatever, the stars aligned. But I would say 99% of the people I know who play Division 1 college at least were like, 6 and under, and they're just like, all right, all in.
Yeah, that's a good segue. So can you tell us about what the process of getting recruited was like? Because I know from a couple people we've had on before, it's not easy, right? Like it's not like you just play on your high school team. Like what went into it, and how you ended up at Toledo.
Yeah, so the one thing about Smith Tennis, I would say, is they have kind of unique methods. So I think my sophomore year, I had to send out 50 handwritten letters to college coaches. So that was like right off the bat, I was kind of just thrown in. And then after I finished those handwritten letters to a bunch of schools that I probably wouldn't play at, then I had to start cold calling coaches. So that was their thing. It's like you just one to develop obviously some skills as a speaker and get over the hump of being nervous to talk to coaches. I would just find their phone number, head coach, call. If they didn't answer, leave a voicemail, and then assistant coach call.
Wow.
And so me and my buddy would just sit in the back room on our break and just call different coaches and laugh at each other because we're so bad at speaking on the phone. But yeah, that was the start, and then the actual recruiting process was pretty challenging for me because right in the middle of that, like the end of my junior year, was my first time playing Kalamazoo Nationals.
Mhm.
The first game of my first singles match, I went for a volley and my foot, basically the left side of my foot, just exploded, and so I had to get surgery. Was out for a few months, and so that kind of halted the recruiting process in
Yeah.
basically the most important time.
Yeah, no kidding. So what was the goal to play college tennis, or were you thinking like, hey, I may even forego college tennis and play on the circuit? Give it a
No,
shot.
at that point, I think I kind of knew that I had to go the college route.
Hmm.
You just kind of have a feeling based on your level. I was like, okay, I don't really think it makes any sense, and so I was like, okay, college is the way to go. And then once that injury happened, it was basically Toledo or nothing. Like Al was the coach, and he was the only guy who kept talking to me after my foot blew into a million pieces. So, um, yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
it only takes one, right?
No, that's all. And that was kind
That's
of
all you need. Someone to give
made
you
me
a
feel,
chance.
yeah, made me feel good about it. I was like, okay, this guy really backs me, so let's go
So what was
there.
it like? What was it like playing at Toledo? Just being in college, pretty big program. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool. All for sure. All of the perks and stuff people talk about is cool, and for me, kind of finally getting to the point where I feel like I had gotten something from my tennis rather than just Midwest
Mhm.
trophies and stuff like that. And looking at your tennis recruiting, but that part was cool, and I got really lucky. One of my assistant coach my first 2 years traveled with Born and Chorich, and so when he came in as a GA, that was kind of for me the perfect timing of a really talented and experienced coach coming to, in the realm of things, a pretty small D1 program, and just kind of got lucky. And I had a really good connection with him. So that kind of maybe kickstarted my game once I got to college.
Nice. And from what I've heard, college tennis is pretty ruthless, like, right? With the fans, the celebrating, like it's pretty rowdy. Did you find yourself able to hang with it? Like, did you yourself show a lot of emotion on court? Did you celebrate? Like, how did you take all that?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say I probably leaned into it. My first year, I was not even playing in the lineup. I think I played 3 doubles, maybe. But so my coaches were like, okay, if you're not going to play, you're going to be intensity and
Hmm.
cheering guy. And for some reason, that just stuck with me. And I was like, okay, that's my role. So my freshman year, you could probably find me at any match screaming one things that are super positive, but also like super distracting. And so, um, yeah, I was the ruthless one. Like, you know what I mean? I kind of took it upon myself to take that role.
That's pretty funny. Did you see any cheating going on? Because I heard it's a thing, if a call doesn't go your way, you may take revenge on someone, and it's very blatant too.
I mean, yeah, I would say that there were more matches where there was cheating than there weren't.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it was
yeah.
almost like a okay, this is part of it now. Hits the line. You should
Right.
expect someone to call it out. And then if they don't, you're like, oh, this is a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
isn't that why they had to change that rule in college where like there's no more lets? It's like if it hits the net cord, it's just in.
Yeah, because
It-
people will just call let if you hit an ace.
yeah.
Wow.
It's wild. Yeah, but
All right. Well, yeah, let's talk about your newest venture. You were trying to play professional tennis. What
yeah.
inspired you to start this journey? And like what was the moment where you decided, all right, I'm gonna dedicate my life to this?
All right. Well, right after college, I went and coached at a tennis academy in Orlando, Florida, Gooding Tadero Academy. A couple of like longtime ATP, WTA coaches started this, and that was really like the first time I realized how little I knew, maybe. Like I went in and I was like, okay, there's like a whole other side of tennis that I haven't practiced, haven't learned. So that kind of like sparked my interest a little bit, but I didn't have any money and I didn't have any means of practicing. And I was also kind of burnt out after college, like, I don't know. And then about 6 months ago now, probably, fast forward 3 years, I was playing with somebody I now coach, was just playing a practice set, and my brother was in town, just hanging out at the club, and kind of was watching me play. He's like, "Hey, you've really improved a lot for someone who hasn't played, right? Like just over the course of 3 years coaching, my game had basically transformed in a really positive way." And he's like, "I think you should just see what happens. Like you should just play, and you kind of have, you can play at the club. You have a free place to play. Why not?" And so that was the start. And then when I decided to really commit was probably um, not that long ago. I mean, all this has happened pretty quickly.
Yeah, we got you fresh.
Yeah, 2 months ago, maybe 2 months ago. The moment was I posted this video and realized I was like, okay, I think I've just found the thing that I want to do for real, the thing that I really want to do for a long time, and that's one, pursue tennis, but also just kind of document it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really cool. So tell us, what does a typical day look like for you? Are you getting up 5 a.m. training? Like you balancing work because you have a full-time job? Like what does your recovery look like? What are you eating? Give us kind of the whole rundown of a day in the life of Cole Schultz.
Well, it's definitely gotten better. Like in the last couple of weeks, I've made some serious changes, like with my work schedule, to kind of accommodate this. But I'll just give you the fun one, which was what I was doing a month ago, and that's yeah, waking up and going to the gym, getting like my fitness session done for the day. Either that's running or a weight session, and then going straight to the club and working from 11 until 8, 11 until 9, and then practicing. Most of the time the courts were not open. The problem is that I need to practice with basically silence because you're trying to record something.
Hmm.
So wait until the courts are empty, which is like 9:30 or 10, and then I was practicing. Yeah, I was practicing till midnight or 12:30 pretty much every night. That was like the start of it. The series used to be called Turning Pro at Night.
Yeah.
That's why. But yeah, so it's been a grind so far.
So you mentioned that there was a whole side of tennis that you hadn't really known coming out of college. What do you mean by that? Like what aspects of the game were new to you?
Well, I never heard tennis simplified so well. I would say that my entire career I was confused, if that makes sense. I'm sure other players will can understand. Like I was a good athlete and I tried pretty hard, but when I was playing matches, I just don't know. Like I didn't know if I was doing the right thing most of the time. I was like, I don't know. I hope I win,
Yeah.
and just compete really hard, but I don't really know. Kind of aimless. And when I got there, to see them process players basically like, okay, go through these footwork patterns. You got to learn these footwork patterns. Here's the shot selection we want you to follow. Here's the fitness you need to do. Here's the intensity we want you to have. And it was kind of, yeah, simple and plug and play. And they had all these churning out all these players. And that was the first time I was like, okay, there's like a right way to do it. It's not just random.
Hmm. Yeah. I definitely find that when I'm playing tennis, it's just like, okay, hit the ball back, maybe go cross court here. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that is the number one thing I've struggled with forever is just being confused.
Yeah, so let me ask you this though. Like when you were at Toledo, obviously the on-court training is a big portion of it. Then you have the like lifting and conditioning and fitness. What about tactics? Would you guys ever sit in a classroom and like watch film and then kind of go over like strategy?
I don't necessarily. We didn't sit in a classroom, but we definitely had meetings. And
Meetings, yeah.
the older I got, the more I did it kind of on my own. So especially with your doubles partner, right? You have someone to
Hmm.
bounce stuff off of. So with your doubles partner, a lot of times you're staying in the same hotel room. At least for us, you stay with your doubles partner, and in that time, you kind of realize like, oh, we have a chance to build a strategy kind of together in this little Hampton Inn, and that might help us out in tomorrow morning. So that, and then in singles, right, you're constantly speaking with the coaches, so that plan is being built as the match goes. At least that was my experience.
Hmm. Have you been tempted to give up tennis and just pursue pro pickleball at any point?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I have so many friends who I know
Yeah, I'm
pretty
sure.
well who are professional pickleball players. It seems awesome, but I'm kind of addicted to the grind of tennis.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I can't seem to like lock down, and so I'm just trying to. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I know. I know a lot of former college tennis players are just picking up pickleball and it's turning out well for them. But what is one part of your game that you're working on right now at the moment? Like you were talking about certain patterns. Like what's something you're focusing on?
Basically, my entire focus has switched from my hands, my upper body, my technique to my lower body and my feet. So getting lower with my legs all the time, but a lot of moving in and out of the court to produce a better ball or get myself in a better spot. Basically, since I started working with these coaches, there's one coach who I have worked with more regularly, and his big thing has always been the movement in and back to increase the quality of your ball. And so I would say 80% of my focus right now is on that.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's fun.
speaking of all these coaches, you do travel a lot. So how do you to train with these coaches? How do you find them? And like what states are you going to? Are you getting on a plane every other weekend? Like what's your training regimen
I
like?
am getting on a
You
plane
are. Wow.
basically every week.
You must have a good credit card then. Build up those airline miles, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but the finding them, fortunately for me, has been not too challenging because as soon as I posted the first one, I just got a flood of DMs and messages like, "Hey, go to this coach, go to this coach, go to this coach." So it's kind of been a little bit easy. Also, I have connections with different tennis clubs and academies, and so really, it's changed from just ATP coaches to like clubs, coaches, trainers, players in general, right? Just kind of
Hmm.
exploring everything that I can because I know people are interested. I'm super interested too. Like everywhere is a little bit different, and so yeah. But on a plane every
Wow.
week for sure, at least once a week, maybe twice a week. It's crazy right now.
That is crazy, but super cool too.
It
Like
is fun, yeah.
on a name recognition basis, who's probably the most famous person that you've, I guess, worked with or come across? And it could be like, oh, they trained XYZ. Like it doesn't have to be them.
Okay, yeah. So the coach that I work with regularly, if you look at my Instagram, who I have as like my coach, which I
Right,
would
in your
say is like
bio.
in charge of my who I would go back to is his name's Ruan Rolofso, and he worked with Chris Eubanks. He got Chris Eubanks to Wimbledon quarterfinal. And
Okay.
so yeah, and he was the top 100 doubles player and has like crazy good resume. And so on his own he's a good player, but yeah, Chris Eubanks is his big um, name to fame.
Yeah, beat Tsitsipas in that tournament.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Do you have a one-handed backhand or a two-hander?
Two-handed backhand, two-handed
Two-hand. All
backhand.
right. Good. Good. Um, so yeah, this is a good segue into my next question here. Like, do you ride solo or do you have a team? Like, I know you have a coach, but do you have, I don't know, like an agent, a physio, like, I don't know, like someone who helps edit your videos? Like, or is it just you out
It's
there?
just me right now. It
Wow,
is. I
lone
have
wolf.
I would say I have like a lot of friends and family who've helped me to this point for sure. Tons of
Hmm.
people like giving me filming for me or um, shooting me ideas or letting me stay with them. I try to keep my costs as low as I can. So lots of people helping me in that way, but in terms of the the editing of the videos and the travel portion, like right now, that's just me.
Yeah.
Um, so it's pretty wild. I mean, we're just getting started. I have no idea how this is
Yeah.
gonna go, but
So Along that note, what about gear? Or do you have any sponsors, or is this all self-funded?
It's all self-funded right now.
Nice,
I
man.
fortunately the club. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Launchpad
Hmm.
Tennis, the club that I am the co-owner and director of, um, that helps a lot with the gear because we're Babolat affiliated club, and I play well. That's why I play with a Babolat racket, and so that helps. You know, rackets, string, shoes are the most expensive. A lot of that can be written off as a business expense for me, which is like huge. That's basically the only reason that I can do this.
Yeah, nice. It's pretty funny. So I live in New York City, and I just bought my seasonal tennis permit, which you have to do here.
Oh, really?
And yeah, at the like if you want to play on the public courts, and
Wow.
at the tennis shop or the sports shop that I bought it at, there was a perk like, all right, if you buy it here, you get 20% off all tennis stuff, excluding Babolat. Like everything Babolat didn't count. I'm like, oh man, come on.
Yeah.
But I really want to try the shoes. I'm purely an Asics shoes guy for tennis, but the Babolats seem pretty good, pretty sturdy.
Asics is the way to go. I mean, I
Yeah.
wear Nike because I maybe care just a little bit too much about how the shoes look,
Oh,
but Asics is the way to go for
You saying
sure.
Asics are ugly?
No, no, I'm not
So-
saying that, but it's you know they look the same most of the time.
yeah.
yeah. I used to go for the Nike as well, but then I had to change to the Adidas Barricade because it was just more sturdy. Because with the Nike shoes, I would go through the toe of them.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of someone commented that on a video the other day is like, how many shoes are you going through? I don't even want to talk about it. It's embarrassing. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't
hopefully,
blame you
hopefully we get
there.
a sponsor soon. That's the goal.
Yeah, man. So in order to do this, you got to be pretty damn motivated or even just disciplined. So what's your why? Like, everyone I feel like who's successful has a reason that's driving them, like something that's lighting a fire. What is yours?
Uh, so I have this weird. This is kind of behind all of my coaching motivation too. I have this weird drive that like tennis is, I think is a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent separation that players who are like pretty talented can definitely rise faster. And for me, that just bothers me a lot. I'm not sure why. So I kind of have a like personal vendetta against tennis. Like, hey, I know I'm not that talented at this as a player. It might look like it now, but historically I was not. And I'm basically just on this quest to kind of like conquer tennis, if that makes sense. That's really
Mhm.
how it feels. Is like I'm fighting tennis a lot of the time. And whether I'm coaching or playing or running the club, it's like, okay, this is a sport that requires kind of a different level of finesse. You know, you kind of have to work with it. It's like, okay, I can't just get strong. I can get a stronger bench. That's not going to help me. And so that's kind of pushing me every day.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Andre Agassi in his book Open. I don't know if you've read it, but
Yeah, yep,
just like a constant push and pull, like where tennis takes so much, but then it gives back a little bit to keep
yeah,
you hooked, and then it's like just a big toxic relationship. But
for sure. Yeah, it's
yeah,
toxic. Yep, yeah,
it's it's funny what you were saying just about like, yeah, if you get under a bench press and start throwing up weight, that's not going to help you in tennis. So there's just a lot more to it. Let's get deep here. So, what has been the hardest moment so far in this journey? I know it's still pretty recent, but have you come across any hardships and like what do you do to overcome them?
yeah. I think that especially in the first month when I was making those Instagram videos and I had 50 followers and I'm making in a club at night at 12:30 and you're hitting on the ball machine. I didn't have a practice partner hitting on the ball machine and you're not practicing well. I'm not sure that I've really experienced something that's kind of like more discouraging than that. I don't. There's this I think it's Kevin Hart quote about like the hardest thing in the world is to like practice and not see any results or keep going even though you don't see any results. That's kind of what it felt like. Basically felt like I was like spinning my wheels as fast as I possibly could, um, and so that was like it kind of sticks out to me like a 2 or 3 month period where I'm like, wow, I cannot believe I'm still doing this.
Mhm. Wow. So I know the goal is to play professional tennis. Like that's the overreaching goal, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you have to break it down into smaller wins. Like what is the next goal for you right now? Like short-term goal, maybe if it's 6 months or and then a year and then 5 years. Is it to get a ranking? Is it to play in a challenger? Like what do you focus on right now on achieving?
Yeah, so I personally I really try to avoid like ranking based or result based goals just because I'm like addicted to that, and so that kind of messes with my tennis. So like I just try to focus solely on like specific improvement, like hey, I want this to be at this level, this to be at my fitness to be here. But for sure, the first thing on my list is like get into a main draw of a futures, like just get yourself in and around it and like see what it's like because I didn't play any ITF growing up. I've, played a few national tournaments. I feel like I'm still a little new to like what it's going to be like. So that's first off, just get in and see. And I think that'll give me a good idea what I need to do.
Well, I wanted to comment on what you were saying there with the improvement, not the rankings or results based thing, because we've had people on in the past that have a quote that sticks out was "Don't be afraid to lose, getting better." It's like
Right.
if you focus on just winning matches, you can sometimes even get worse because you like fall back into old patterns.
Yeah. I mean, I made a video, I think it was yesterday, basically saying that I think the last 5 years before I started doing this, I was in the same spot. My game was in the same spot because I would work on something, but I wasn't willing to work on it or take the risk if it meant I was going to lose to someone worse than me. Right? I was like, okay, I was like holding on to my level so tight. I'm not letting go of this. And basically, you just kind of hold your game hostage, right? You're like, okay, that's what it feels like. Or looking back, it's like I basically just held myself down by being afraid to lose to these guys.
Yeah. You just got to have that confidence.
Yeah, you have the confidence, or really, it feels like trust for me. It's like, okay, you have to trust that working on something is going to make it better. I know that seems silly, but tennis is weird. There's times when you work on something and you go into the match like, no, this is worse than it was.
Yeah.
And so you really got to try. I think that's a good reason to have why you got to have a coach whose experience kind of like demands your trust, right? You're like, okay, this guy knows. This guy or girl knows. I'm just gonna listen. I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
So how often are you playing matches?
I've basically started playing practice matches in the last 4 days. The last 4 days, I started playing practice matches. Until then, I was just trying to get my body back into.
Wow.
I gotten into like some bodybuilding and stuff after school, so I was like 220 pounds and like pretty big. And the last 6 months, I've had to drop 35 pounds, get myself back down.
Jeez.
But yeah, so just soon I'll be playing tournaments.
How tall are you?
6'2", and if you look at the Toledo website, 6'3".
Nice.
If you
Yeah,
look
you
at
gotta
the
get that
website,
extra
he's
minute.
6'8".
Yeah, 6'8". Just standing on a platform. I'm like, why do I got to step up on this thing?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm pretty similar dimensions to you as far as size and just yeah, kind of going around because I used to love like benching heavy, squatting heavy, like throwing around weight in the weight room, but that just doesn't translate over to the tennis court. Like I found myself becoming more stiff, not moving
Yeah.
as fast. So now instead of lifting like 5 times a week, I'm two or three, maybe max. And one of those days is like pure injury prevention, the boring lifts, like shoulder rotating cuffs, like
Yeah.
that. Just not as fun, not as fun
No.
as throwing around weight, doing some curls.
Yeah,
But
that was a little bit of I would say a little bit of a curse for me was that I was like pretty strong. And so I had some pride in like my strength in the gym. And I really do think that was like a terrible thing. Like the fact that I was chasing a 225 bench while I was trying to play
mhm.
college tennis. That's terrible. That's not smart at all.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. So you said you just started playing these matches. Who are these people you're playing against? Are they at your level? Are they better, worse?
Really hard to tell. The first match I played, which was like 3 days ago, it was just a set. I posted a set to YouTube. It was a guy who plays for the University of Toledo. I think he's a sophomore now. And then the guy I played this morning. He played number one this year for Lipscomb University. I'm in Nashville right now.
Mhm.
And so they're somewhere between 11 and 12 UTR, which I would say is probably where I'm sitting at the moment without playing more. Um, and one went great and one went awful. So
Oh, geez.
we got a little work to do.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you said you started this journey about 6 months ago, right?
Yeah, I would say like for real, like committing to like dropping weight and stuff,
Hmm.
like probably 6 months.
All right. So in the last 6 months, from talking to coaches, family, friends, whoever, what has been the best piece of advice that you've gotten?
Hmm. Um, for sure is the ATP coach that I worked, the Ruan, who worked with Chris Eubanks, telling me I need to be more intentional when I'm practicing. He kind of like called me out a little bit that when I was practicing, I was just trying to impress him or play or impress myself, right? Like I wasn't really focused on what he was saying. It was kind of more like, oh, I hope this guy thinks I'm good.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably pretty normal, especially if you play a coach like that. But he was like, hey, I don't care how you're playing, but if you're not going to change this stuff, you're just going to stay the same. And that kind of like snapped me. I was like, whoa, yeah, I've been doing that maybe for like way longer than I want to admit.
Yeah. So like have a purpose when you're practicing. Don't just go out there and like waste time, essentially.
Yeah,
Or
and
hit the ball.
have a purpose regardless of how it's going. Like
Hmm.
you need to work on your legs. My forehand's bad. Yeah, you still need to work on your legs. Like, and so that was like the hard part for me, definitely right at the beginning.
Yeah, nice, man. That's good advice. So, something I really wanted to talk about on this podcast because I'm very interested. Let's get into Launchpad Tennis. So, you are co-owner and director, and you're only 24 years old. So, I was very fascinated with that. So, like, how did you get in this position?
Yeah, so this will take a minute kind of to explain. When I was at the University of Toledo, I was a pre-med student, and so I was like grinding on that and actually got all the way to the application process and was like ready to go to med school. And the whole time I was doing that, I was coaching a little bit at Launchpad. Launchpad was created before, like when I was still in college, and created by an alum of Toledo, so a guy that I kind of knew. And I started working with them right when they opened, just coaching a few hours at nights to help out their junior program. And I was like, whoa, I actually really enjoy coaching. And then at the end, when I graduated, I had to kind of decide between med school and coaching, which seems crazy. But internally, I had that crazy decision. And I made the decision to coach, went down to that academy, and about 9 months after I graduated, I got a call from uh, one of the owners that they're looking to have. They're looking for a director. Basically, the it was started by two brothers, and one of the
Mhm.
brothers passed away, Zach Barden, and that was the guy who played for UT. And so his brother, I knew his brother pretty well, and kind of we just got connected. And he was like, "Hey, are you interested in being the director? You've been with us since we started. You know the program. You know the area." And I was like, "Sure, let's see what happens." And I will basically, no one has ever been more over their skis than me starting that job. I remember walking in and doing an event my first week, like an event where I'm speaking to 50 adult members. At that time I was 22, and I'm like talking to these people at no real professional social skills, just kind of like going off the on the fly, like trust me, I know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
just fake it till you make it.
All I did was fake it until
Hmm.
could make it. But the only maybe advantage I had was my dad was business owner in a sports business, and so I spent my childhood watching him. So like the communicating with parents, the selling, and the structure, and kind of like what it took to run a business. I was like, I think I have a good idea of maybe
Hmm.
like what the grind is like in that sense.
Yeah, that's cool. So how are the members broken down? Is it like majority adults? Is it a big portion of kids? Or is it kids that are like super committed and you're grooming them to go on and play college tennis, or is it kids taking the casual tennis lesson, once a week?
That's been my big impact is when I came from the academy to Launchpad, it was basically all recreational tennis. Even at the junior level, it was probably pretty even, adults and juniors. And it was a very nice club. Like it was super well maintained, but maybe they didn't have like a super driving force in terms of the junior development. And for me, that's really what I was interested in as a coach. So I kind of basically lit a fire under everybody like, hey, if you're going to play here, it's going to be serious. For
Nice.
sure people didn't like that. um, and for a few months it was pretty quiet around there in those groups, but then people started to realize that it was that I cared a lot more about their kid or about them and really invested in their tennis. And now I would say that we have one of probably, I would say, the best like junior development in that area in Northwest Ohio, probably. So I'm super proud of that. That's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great accomplishment. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, thanks.
When the two brothers started the company or Launchpad, did they just buy a plot of land and start developing this club, or did they buy an already functioning tennis club and then rebrand it?
Yeah, so really it was a tennis club called Shadow Valley, which has two locations in Toledo, and one of their locations was kind of a like throwaway, dying off a little bit. They were just throwing extra matches or extra lessons over there, and so these guys took over the lease. It was, it's a building, half soccer, half tennis, a sports complex. So they took over the
Okay.
lease of one half and just started on their own. Just those two. Like first, they just remodeled the place. It's old, and they basically turned it into like super modern, like incredible place in Toledo. I think it's one of the best places for you to hang out for real.
Wow.
It's got good vibes. We have five cameras behind, or we have cameras behind all five courts that live stream upstairs to the lounge, so you can watch. We've got, like state of the art ball machine and all this different stuff, basically to make it like a tennis player's paradise, if you can, as much as we can.
Yeah, no, there are definitely a lot of nice clubs in the US, but a lot of clubs that are dated and could use some lipstick. I definitely have come across that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's the thing. I mean, do you guys do any pickleball or paddle or padel there too, or just tennis?
We have pickleball lines on one court, and that probably gets
Ooh.
that. Yeah, tell me about it. That probably
I
gets
saw him in
used.
your video actually. I was like, you were playing on one. I'm like, wow, this
There,
is hard to
there,
follow.
it is. I would say that probably gets used about an hour a week. We could take those pickleball ball lines off, and nobody would know a difference. But
Mhm.
we have it just for the occasional court booking. But no, we are tennis, and the community at Launchpad, I would say, is that has a lot less to do with me. There's quite a few coaches who are from Toledo, grew up there, and basically have fostered this like incredible tennis family there that I've just kind of jumped into. I build the tennis programs and the players. I don't really. I haven't been that influential in the community. That's really a lot of these coaches who've been around.
Mhm.
So I kind of, they do a lot of the work for me.
Yeah, you'll get there. So like how much of your day is spent coaching versus actually like running operations and, coordinating lessons and budgeting and like processing payments, like that type of stuff?
It's really changed as the club has grown. When I started, basically all I did was teach on court because I
Hmm.
didn't think that the club was in a spot anywhere my value was needed really anywhere else. Basically, I would coach every day, and then on the weekends there was a time when I was giving like 8 hours straight of private lessons on Saturday and the same again on Sunday, just to kind of like boost our junior program. That was probably 6 months like that where I was, and then after that, people started to pay attention, and it got some momentum, and now I'm with all this going on. They've been really Everyone at the club's been super supportive, so I have built up a strong enough staff where now I'm able to be gone quite a bit more and just do the business side. So scheduling, speaking to parents, um, building new programs. We just started a new like high performance program. So my job has changed a lot with this whole thing going on.
Nice. Would you say that the people at Launchpad are supportive of your journey right now? Like trying to play
Yeah,
pro?
I think that probably a few people are angry in a fun way, like, "Hey, why
Yeah.
are you not here?"
Yeah.
I get some messages from parents like, "You've been traveling a lot," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I don't really have a choice. This is kind of like the coolest thing ever, so I need to I need to do it." But there's one thing that people don't see is the information that I'm getting, that I'm bringing back to the club, bringing back to the other coaches. I would say probably that will get almost no um, recognition from anyone other than the other coaches, right?
Hmm.
But that's a huge deal because I'm not a professional tennis coach, and I've only coached for 6 or 7 years. So to think that we could compete with real tennis programs without me like going around, I just don't think it would be possible. So it's helpful for the club. People just maybe don't know it.
Yeah, it's like you're doing R&D under the guise of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try to play pro, when you're
Yeah.
just bringing some tips back to the club. But
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
don't they do that with like college professors, like with continued education, so that
yeah,
as if the professor can get better, it helps the students get better. So I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. The only problem is that there's a ton of kids who I do lessons with who I'm just not there, so they don't really care. Some of these kids are
yeah.
like 10 or 11 years old. They don't give a crap about that. They're like, hey, where's Coach Cole? I don't want to go with somebody else. So,
Yeah.
but
That's funny. Well, hey, I appreciate that. So this next segment, I want to kind of get into some more fun questions, like tennis
okay.
specific, quick hitters. What is your play style, and are there any players on tour that you try to replicate?
Well, I would say that I'm a confused player until recently. So I honestly don't know the answer to that question until pretty recently. Right now, I'd say I'm like pretty strong off both wings from the baseline, and then looking for opportunities to come forward. So Karen Kachanov, I would say that guy is like when I watch, I go, okay, that kind of is similar to me, bigger guy, kind of
You
big
kind of look
bounce.
like him too.
There we go. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I can't say like Dimitrov or something like that, but
Yeah, I
uh,
wish.
yes, something like that. But honestly, I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know.
Like you take Federer's game, that's me pretty much.
Federer's
Oh, that's
game
funny.
without all the winning. I just
Yeah.
struggle with it.
Yeah, yeah. Just instead of making it look easy, making it look extremely hard.
Super
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah.
That's Deminar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite surface to play on?
Favorite is clay, but best is hardcore. I'm not very good on clay. I just think it's fun
Mm.
to slide around for sure. I always have, even since I was a kid. So
Yeah, I think when you were down in Florida, you were playing on some hard true, right?
yeah, I mean, I think it's so enjoyable. I like a little bit of like that cushion. Feels good. My knees are just have a little bit of wear on them. So, but I'm definitely better on hardcore.
Yeah, nothing like some cracked cement here up in New York.
My whole life, yeah, that's my main
Asphalt.
problem.
Yeah. Have you ever played on grass? Just curious.
I remember playing on a real grass court. I played on turf courts before, which were wet and
Yeah.
slippery and awful. So no, that's on the bucket list. I am planning some trips soon to do some stuff in Europe, which would be really cool. So I got to
Ooh.
get on a grass court then.
That's awesome. Yeah, I played on like the AstroTurf carpet, whatever, out on Long Island, and it was a wet day because it was early in the morning, so it was
Yeah,
nice and dewy. And I was playing doubles, and I went for a poach at the net, and I kid you not, I probably slid like 4 feet.
it's
It
crazy.
was
Yeah,
so funny. It felt like I
you're
was
like
on ice skates.
thinner at Wimbledon, sliding around somehow.
Does
Yeah.
the ball just
So
like skip on that like it would like with a soccer ball?
You're like you're skipping a stone.
Yeah. Wild.
so you live in Toledo now, right? That's where Launchpad is
Yeah,
located,
that's
or
that's my home, but I'm honestly at the moment I'm
you're a
not there very
nomad?
often. Yeah.
That's funny. So what is the tennis culture like in Ohio? Because I know certain states are kind of known for being big in tennis, and to be honest, Ohio doesn't really come to top of mind there. Like it's more
Yeah,
mostly Florida, California, Arizona.
I would say that I've really like another vendetta that I have is against the kind of just average tennis culture, at least in my area. I don't I don't want to speak for Columbus or Cincinnati. I'm sure
Right.
I know that there's bigger programs there. I would just say in my area, it feels like people maybe don't know about like what's going on in the other cities, the other states. So that's been like educating is I'm like, okay, we gotta just get people to figure it out. Like we're way behind here.
hmm So is your whole social circle, is it kind of evolved around tennis? Like are all your friends, you can kind of talk to them about tennis because they either play tennis or they follow the circuit. Like
I'm trying to think of someone who I speak to on a regular basis right now who is not a tennis player. I honestly, besides my parents and my grandparents, I don't know if I have a single. I'm being serious. I don't know if I have a single person in my life who's not like a long-term tennis player. So yeah, the answer is yes.
that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like New York, it's got everything, but it's kind of hard to find select people to like really play tennis with because everyone's so busy. Everyone's kind of got their thing. I've signed up for like live ball a few times. I've joined apps like Play Your Court. Like I'm grinding out there to just
Just
try
to
to
find
find people to
getting
play with. Yeah. Yeah. But no, that's cool. What's your favorite shot? Do you have a specific shot that comes to mind? Something I saw you
yeah.
working on Inside out forehands.
There you go, inside out forehand.
Yeah,
There you go. That's it.
it's a
That's
fun one.
I like to move to my left. I do not like to move to my right. If anyone I'm playing watches this, please skip
If
that part of
anyone
it.
you're playing watches this, he loves to move to his right.
I love
So
to move. Also, I post everything that I'm learning and all of my tactics on my Instagram, so I think I'm in trouble there. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point. We're gonna have Aiden chop this up
Yeah.
into a reel and then expose you there.
there you go. Perfect. That's okay. It makes it tougher.
So I know you mentioned Bab a lot as something you play with and wear a lot. So I was gonna ask you what your favorite brand is besides Bab a lot.
That's an interesting question. I think that the Wilson tennis stuff is really cool, but I don't own a single piece of it. But everyone I know would call me a liar. I basically wear Lululemon clothes like
Nice.
all day long. I've got weird, like broad shoulders, and they seem to fit me. And so I would say 80% of the time I'm on the court, that's what I'm wearing. And they just got into
Nice.
tennis with Tiafo, so that's good for me.
Yeah, Tiafo, Ethan Quinn. You're seeing it a lot. And then Viore too, like the other kind of yoga athleisure brand.
Yeah, pretty
They're
cool.
also so yeah, I know. I feel like a lot of my Lululemon stuff is just pure athleisure and like I don't want to get it all sweaty and gross out on the tennis court.
Yeah, I don't think
It's like
that.
too nice. It's too expensive to screw up.
I don't think the way that I treat the clothes is recommended by
Yeah.
Lululemon people. I don't think
Yeah, that's funny. So can you kind of go through like a couple of specific tennis workouts that are top of mind that you do week in and week out, just for some people who maybe are kind of struggling to like find a consistent routine, like a couple workouts that are easy that
you mean.
translate over on the tennis court.
Oh yeah, off court.
Yeah,
Okay, so the number one thing that I've done for a long time, and this is I got this from a trainer when I was in Indianapolis, is 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off on the bike. So basically, you get on a stationary bike where you can change the levels pretty easily, and you set a timer, and you're just going 30 seconds at like basically no effort, and then 30 seconds of max effort. Like turn it up to 15 and go as hard as you can, and then you got 30 seconds to recover. I think that's probably the best use of your time if you're trying to get better for tennis, other than just like being on a tennis court. But
hmm
that is basically right one to with to what's happening on the court. Right, you're going max effort, and then you got a little bit of time to recover.
yeah, that's a good one. I've done an assault bike workout like that where you
Oh yeah,
incorporate the arms too, but I would do 10 seconds on like full and then 20 off. And I'm after 10, 12 times, I'm laying on the ground like dizzy about to throw
like
up.
nauseous. Yeah, the assault bike is worse. I mean, there was when when I was in high school, there were times when we got up to like 30 minutes of that, where you're doing 30 minutes.
What?
That's crazy. And then here, I'll just do one for fun, which I don't know if I would say this is a regular workout and it's not easy, but one that I kind of chase and I'm about to do tomorrow with my buddy is something I heard that Andy Murray does, which is you're running 10 400s. So you run a 400 around, one lap around the track, and then you've got a minute to rest, and then you run 400 around the track. And I don't know his time. For some reason, I want to say he was running it under a minute each time, which is it's just insane.
Sir Andy.
not
I don't
it's
know
not
if I
easy to
can.
do that one time.
I don't know if I can run one under a minute. Maybe that's false, and the person who told me that is full of it. But I'm gonna do that pretty soon and post it. So you'll get to see how that goes.
Hell yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised like seeing the way he covered the court back in the day.
No, if
Like,
anyone could do it, yeah.
yeah, that's cool. So what's been your favorite tennis memory so far in your life? It could be, as young as juniors or it could be a recent one.
Yeah, so for me, when I got my first lesson with this coach Ruan, basically that was in my eyes like I had made it to the spot in tennis, which is what I always wanted, which wasn't necessarily like a certain number, but just to kind of be like in the realm of professional tennis. Like,
hmm
okay, you're really far away from the top, from the things that people dream about, but you're at least you're around it, you're touching it, and so that was like for me like a big deal. I was like, okay, we're there. I don't know how it's going to go from here, but we're at least around the top level of tennis, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, so many young people dream about just being there. And then the fact that you're able to just even be in the orbit is still super cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So, do you have a favorite tennis book or tennis movie, like tennis TV show? I don't know, something that's like in pop culture or media.
Ooh, that's a great question. This is going to be a crazy answer, but maybe people will like it. When I was a kid, my dad made me read, and he read the Tiger Woods book, and we applied that to
Ooh.
tennis. And so what we would do is I would like to hit second serves, and my brother would like throw balls at me or put ice cubes in my shorts and stuff like that. That's real. And I was like 12 years old. And so I'll say I'll apply that book. And actually, me and my dad have talked many times about making our like an application of that book for tennis because it
Mhm.
was a big part of our training. You know, as a kid, it was just with him. He's just like, all right, this is the best father-son sports duo of all time. Let's just try to copy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to my list. I recently started the inner game of tennis, which is kind of the
Mm.
opposite of what you said, where a lot of like business professionals and other athletes use that book to translate it over to like whatever their profession is. But yeah, I think tennis could just be applied in many different ways, right? Just like the fact that it's just you out on the court and you know, like what even Federer said in his Dartmouth commencement speech. I feel like he did a great job of just using tennis analogies to real life.
Yeah, I don't really know how I would be doing without tennis, right? I don't I think that, you know, it's a tough time for people and you see a lot of people struggling. Tennis is like the ultimate mental toughener because you just fail all the time, even when you're winning, right? It's like you're winning, but you're also losing.
Mhm.
As you're winning, you're losing, and so you go, okay, you don't get too up, you don't get too down. I think it's probably, you know, made me success and all those different things that I've been successful at so far, probably just because I play tennis.
Yeah, it's a great sport, man. On the other hand, what do you like to do when you're not playing tennis?
That's a good question. I
Sleep?
would I would say like that's funny because talking to a friend of mine the other day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like maybe you should get a hobby." And I'm like, I don't really know if I think that tennis videos is the hobby
Yeah.
now. That's kind of taken the role, but uh, I'm a big golf guy. I would say that I basically have no time to play golf at the moment, but that's the TikTok that I have, which is posts my videos now, used to be my own golf channel.
Oh
So if there's
wow.
people who are really interested in me, they could go look at the TikTok and scroll way down, and you're going to find videos of me making like terrible TikTok golf content. That I guess that's my hobby.
So did you used to be Cole Schultz Golf and then you rebranded Cole Schultz Tennis?
Yeah, pretty much. Those were not serious videos. It was like
Hmm.
me
You
screwing
weren't
around.
trying to play pro.
No, I was like, how dumb can I be in 7 seconds on TikTok? That was
Uh,
pretty much what I was doing.
that's funny. So just kind of going along the lines of today's tennis, like do you follow the pro tour? What are your thoughts on today's tennis? You know, obviously we don't have a big three like we used to for the last 20 years. Like, are you happy with the fact that pretty much every tournament is up for grabs now? There's a lot of new up and coming stars that are trying to make a name for themselves. We have Alcaraz and Sinner. Like, what do you? I guess, yeah. What are your thoughts on tennis today? Is it in a good spot or?
I think it's great. I don't
Hmm.
know how other people feel. I know that people like idolize and love those guys, and
Yeah.
but for me, it's way more interesting because I've been around tennis for so long. I've just watched the same three people win for my whole life. It's like way more interesting to watch Damon Hour beat someone. Oh, you know what I mean? Like beat Dimitrov in the quarterfinal. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And so I like that part of it. I think that the stardom too is starting to grow, which is cool. Like you're starting to get these guys like Ben Shelton who are building, and you know maybe they're doing it on purpose, maybe not, but they're kind of building that these different personalities that are not just classic like tennis gentlemen, which I think is
Hmm.
awesome. I mean that is like super important for a sport to grow. I think that's pretty cool development.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got the rise of like tennis influencers too, like Tommy Paul's girlfriend, Paige Lorenz, and then Taylor Fritz's girlfriend. Like, no matter how cringy they are, like they are still doing what they can to grow the sport. Like they're making, you know, going to the US Open pretty cool. Like where the casual, not even tennis fan, but just the like regular, you know, 23-year-old girl wants to drink a honeydew and like we'll go spend money and watch tennis and like
They're
get
making
into
it
it.
too
So
expensive.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That plus inflation, it's just like it's tough out there, man.
yeah, you gotta. That's what you gotta get. Try to get in those tournaments. Is just so I can
Just
afford a
to
hundred.
play in them.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always thought tennis kind of got well, not in the U.S. In Europe it's done fine, but in the U.S. I always felt like it had tons of room to grow. It's like
Hmm.
especially college tennis with what Cracked Rackets is doing, those broadcasts.
Yeah.
I'm like I think that the runway is super long and probably maybe like the next few years, like 10 years, you'll see as people get more personal with the viewers, the fans. I feel like it'll take off because it's got so many. I don't know how many more sports have that much like that many intricate details and that good of a season. Like think about you all over like the most beautiful places in the world. No other sport is like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Bullish on tennis, baby.
Oh yeah, I'm investing. I'm
Yeah,
buying.
yeah, yeah. Um, so what are your thoughts on pickleball and paddle? Like, do you have an angst towards them, like a lot of tennis players, or do you not really care?
I personally don't care as long as it's not right next to me, just because of the sound. I
Hmm.
don't have a. If my friends want to play pickleball, that's great. I uh, I just can't stand the sound. I think they need to be separate. Put them in different spots because the sound is not like does not go with tennis.
No.
But I think one thing I do think is great is that I know and you guys know that racket sports are like super healthy for people's brains. Like my own grandparents and stuff, I would want them to play
Yeah.
those sports because it's like it's incredible for you. There's tons of studies on like how it can prevent those diseases and those mental diseases as you get older. So I'm all about more as long as it's not next to me.
Yeah.
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 And what about paddle? Because obviously that one's a little bit more like it has to be kind of isolated from like they have to build those own special courts for people to play.
I think paddle's a little bit cooler, I guess, to me. I don't know
Hmm.
why. Something about it. Maybe it's the people that play it. Maybe it's like because it's in those glass domes, but or glass
Yeah.
cages. But uh, I've actually never played paddle. I have no idea. But it seems a little bit more hip than
Yeah. I've heard
pickleball.
it's very fun. It just apparently is very expensive.
Yeah, maybe that's why I like it. I just seem to have expensive tastes. I like it.
Yeah, it's like the shit in South America and Europe and
Yeah,
US it's starting to get big. Like I think you're seeing a couple spots in Miami and then New York, but I mean, I think that also has a lot of growth potential there too.
yeah,
And I think as long as it doesn't encroach on tennis, like if tennis and padel and pickle can all coexist, I have zero problems with them. Because yeah, like you said, it's great to see people out there and exercising and socializing. But then once it starts infringing on tennis courts and it takes away from tennis players, that's when I start to have an issue with it.
yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just gonna say this one is kind of a fun little question, but so you're someone who is very inspiring. You have a lot of purpose in your life. What piece of advice would you give to listeners who are kind of looking for something, whether it's in tennis or in life, like how you stay so dedicated? Because we all know it's easy to do stuff when you're motivated, but you can't wake up every single day motivated. It's doing the things when you're not motivated that builds character. So just tell us how you do it and some advice for the people who are looking for that.
Yeah, basically, and I struggle with all the same stuff. Basically, what I've started to do, I'll talk one first about just tennis specific. Like, if you're obviously most of these people are tennis players. In terms of tennis, the number one thing I've changed that's helped me is I just pretend like the workout or the session or the stretching that I'm doing is part of my next tournament. So I just pretend like when I'm doing a bike workout that like that is 0-0 in the third set tiebreak or something like that. That for me seems to work. I don't know why, but like that connection where I go, okay, if I can do good on this set, I get the first. If I can do this good on this set of this lift or this workout, I can get the first point of this tiebreak. And so I really do that. But in terms of like the overall, like if you're talking about your life, I just think that kind of like who you are or where you end up is almost 100% related to what you're doing, right? So like if you're doing stuff that other people aren't willing to do, you're probably going to get results that other people don't get. And in my life to this point, obviously I've been super lucky with a lot of things, but that seems to be true. The more stuff I'm doing that other people aren't, the better my results are, and vice versa.
That's a great answer.
Isn't that what they say about luck, right? It's where opportunity meets what is it, preparedness?
Yeah, 100%. I don't. this I've realized it at the club first, which was like those I you could see a direct correlation of our coaches and me were trying harder than coaches around us, and we got all the clients. And then I was like, oh, I can just apply this to whatever. You can just do, you know what I mean? That's super easy when you went once you realize, oh, it's a pretty easy system. It's all at the top, right? All the gains are like in that little extra effort other people aren't going to give.
Yeah, that's funny. That's one of my favorite quotes about luck. It's the harder you try, the luckier you get.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. No, I feel super lucky all the time. So
Hmm. There we go. So this next part of the podcast is we have segments. So I don't know if you have time to stick around, but we'd love to kind of
yeah,
have you on for like what's new in tennis, our bet of the week, and then match of the week.
all right, cool.
Cool. All right, Aiden, are you ready to hop into segments?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
What's new in tennis? What'd you see this week, Eric?
All right, what is new in tennis? So I don't know if you guys saw, but the Carlos Alcaraz documentary on Netflix, it's called My Way. It just dropped. And it's 3 hours, or sorry, it's three episodes, about an hour each, highlighting his 2024 season. So I watched it, and overall, I wasn't a huge fan just because I know it's kind of hard to dial in on it because there was no suspense. I just knew all the results already. Like, Cole, have you seen it or
Yeah, I watched about
you watched it?
15 minutes and I go, well, I already know what's going to happen
Yeah.
because it's just they're just telling a story in a straight line. Like he came to the tournament, he lost, he's sad, he won this tournament, he's happy. And I was like, okay, well, this is not groundbreaking.
Yeah, I found it a little boring. Like I was kind of just like limping through it, like forcing myself to watch it instead of wanting to binge it like some other Netflix shows. And then also I screwed up because during the first episode, first like 15 minutes, I watched it dubbed in English, which
Yeah,
was
so did
just
we.
so cringy. I was like, I can't do this. I can't. So yeah, that's another thing. It's in Spanish, so if you want to look away and do something else, you kind of miss like you miss a couple things. But some themes I took away was the first thing, like Carlos Alcaraz, he says many times how he wants to be the greatest of all time and he wants to be on the same level as the big three one day, but his actions don't really seem to follow through with what he says. Like I got the impression that his team kind of wants it more than he does, and he's even said numerous times that like he he very much values like wanting to be happy, having fun, and enjoying life, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just feel like if you're gonna talk the talk, you got to be able to walk the walk. And in my opinion, it was just kind of way too early to make a documentary about him. Like, don't get me wrong, he's an extremely talented player, like one of the best in the sport right now. But I think it just would have been way more interesting to, look back 5 or even 10 years from now and make the documentary then just like way more in depth. Like I said, it's just like too recent. And then lastly, I will say I do think a subpar tennis documentary is better than no tennis documentary at all.
That's
Like,
true.
yeah, I'm glad Netflix did this because I think it put eyeballs on the sport. They really hyped it up. They did a good job of promoting it. And while I wasn't like completely infatuated with it, I think it was pretty good to have on in the background. Like it was somewhat entertaining. Like the tennis shots were great. The camera work was awesome. They had some good interviews on, like with some very respectable players. Like Rafa was on there, Federer, Sinner. And then I also thought the dialogue, like between his family and his coaches, that was interesting to see. Like those little parts where it was, what would be conversation that was held in private. You got to kind of see that. And then lastly, just seeing what was going on in his head during that rough patch that he had last summer after he lost to Monfils in Cincinnati, completely obliterated his racket, and then went on to lose first round in straight sets to Van Zanderschulp in the U.S. Open. So just like seeing him at his low, just kind of it humanizes him because you're used to seeing Alcaraz flying around on the court, smiling, and it's not all fun and games at that level. So all in all, I would give it a solid 6 out of 10. Uh, wasn't crazy about it, but I liked it. That was my long-winded soliloquy about it.
To me, I think it maybe just been a little bit kind of short-sighted of Netflix in a way, because obviously they're looking around and they're like, okay, what's doing well on our platform? And it's all of these sports documentaries they've been coming out with. Drive to Survive. Obviously, I think it started with The Last Dance, which was an incredible sports documentary, right? But like Cole kind of said, the reason The Last Dance was so great is because they had like multiple storylines. It was bouncing back and forth. It wasn't just linear through the entire thing. And so even though you knew kind of what happened in these series, it was a little bit more suspenseful. You were a little bit more engaged with it. I think what happens here is that they're a little bit too focused on, oh, we just need to get another thing out there. And so, like you said, it was entertaining, but it wasn't necessarily like as good as it could have been if they had waited a few years to make this.
Yeah, exactly. But what about you? What did you see this week?
I saw that an article talking about Tiafoe where he said essentially that he thinks that other tennis stars would be scabs based on this recent action by the Professional Tennis Players Association, where they apparently demanded more money from Grand Slam events in prize money and distribution. And then Tiafoe was asked about this, and he was like, "Oh, would you?" They were like, "Oh, would you hypothetically boycott the events if people were doing that?" And he essentially said he doesn't trust other people to do the same, which, in my opinion, is just not a great thing to say. Just because these are your peers, right? Like you're all professional players, and you're kind of making a comment on their integrity, which I don't think is the greatest thing to say. But we have seen him kind of take shots at his fellow players in the past. So I don't think it's great to say, oh, these guys are going to cross the picket line, so I don't think we're gonna be able to do this. But I don't think it's necessarily a massive change from some of his previous stances.
Cole, have you been following any of the like PTPA lawsuit and the drama there?
Yeah, if you go onto my account and you go into the comments, there's a couple people who have like these basically they go over the entire case in my comment section. I don't really know what caused that, but we're happy to have it down there. I think it's if you just look at the numbers of tennis and you go, okay, well this sport is giving the lowest percentage of their revenue to players. You're right away you go, okay, it's not fair. The problem I've listened to people talk about is that sports leagues are inherently not fair, right? Like this, it's like a legal monopoly. So, I mean, it's great that they're trying to do it, but do I really think that stuff is going to change? Maybe they'll give them some like fluff, to like make it seem like they're helping, but still, it's like the overwhelming percentage I think is going to stay with it. Because who's going to stop it? Like, was it UTS? What's the other
UTS,
tour?
right?
Yeah, UTS.
But that's like showboat, like fake tennis almost.
It's something. Trying to compete with the ATP tour. I don't know if there's a more dominant, like, where it would be so hard to replicate that because of all the locations and all of the like history that all these tournaments have. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough.
Yeah. And I think the part of that too is like, because there's so many tennis players out there, it's like, okay, if the top 20 players stopped playing, players 21 and through 50 would just be like, oh, awesome. I'm going to just get more prize money.
And the level is not that different, right?
Yeah.
You go like down to, what did I read the other day? That if you're 350 in the world in any other sport, you make on average 500,000. And if you're 350 in the world in tennis, you lose money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, but those guys they all play at the incredible level. Like if you plug those guys in, we probably wouldn't know if they're playing against each other. I would have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy stuff. Do you sports bet by any chance?
I do not. I like to watch my friends lose money. That's really the fun for me. So I really hype up them to make stupid bets, and then I'll just sit back and watch. That's
nice. Yeah. So this next segment we have is bet of the week. So Aiden, who are you taking this week?
I'm going with Berrettini plus 150 over Draper. I know Draper's had some success recently, but I think the big difference for me here is just the surface. Draper is 2-0 head to head against Berrettini, but I think the surface is just going to play into it because we know Berrettini is no slouch on clay. He's had a couple titles in the past on the surface, and he also just beat Zverev on clay last week. So we know he has the potential for the upset here. Draper, on the other hand, isn't necessarily the strongest clay court player. Obviously, he has progressed since last year, but I'm going with the underdog here, Berrettini plus 150.
Ooh, I like that one. Yeah, just because you said the surface. Like I would say, 9 times out of 10, I'm taking Draper on any other surface, but the fact that it is clay, I think I do lean a little more towards Berrettini. I think it's going to be a serve fest too. These guys, just two massive serves.
Yeah, I think Berrettini wants it to be a serve fest, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully that Draper lefty forehand doesn't hurt his lack of backhand, I should
Yeah,
say.
exactly. How about you?
I'm taking Cerundolo plus 140 over Zverev. So he's 2-0 against him head to head, and he recently beat him in Buenos Aires a couple months ago, and then last year at the same tournament, Madrid. So both on clay. And Cerundolo, he tends to thrive on these long, like gritty rallies, whereas Zverev, he tends to tighten up, especially on the forehand side. Whereas Cerundolo's got a very solid forehand. So I think if he can just maintain these long drawn out rallies on this slow surface, I think he's got a pretty good chance of beating Zverev. And I would have been more confident saying this had Zverev not won a title
Yeah,
last week because he
I
has
know.
been struggling.
Yeah, we were looking
But
at that Zverev, and I was like, he's been doing downslope, and then all of a sudden wins the title. You're like, oh, what just
oh,
happened?
but this is what the sports books do to you. They're like, oh, plus 140. It's so juicy, so tempting.
But
So
Cerundolo also been playing very solid, not only just on clay, but I mean, did great at the in the Sunshine Double as
mhm.
well. So yeah, he definitely has some momentum as well.
Yeah, funny story about Sarundala. I didn't realize that he had a brother on tour. Did you?
Yeah, I did. I
So
did. He's much better than his brother, I think, though. I mean,
yeah, no, he is. So I saw Sarundala versus Medvedev, and I was like, oh, dude, like Medvedev, he could lose against Sarundala. And then I looked, I'm like, wait, like Jay
yeah,
Sarundala? Who is
exactly.
that? Different Sarundala.
Uh, uh,
So
Unrelated, but speaking of Medvedev, he has had an odd tournament in Madrid so far. He got he's getting like an FAA run where he got a walkover in the first round and then had like a 50-minute match in the second round. So he's feeling pretty good right now.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah, maybe he gets a little. What was the stat? FA had like 300 grand in prize money from walkovers. It was insane
Yeah,
from last year.
something nuts. You have any thoughts on those bets, Cole?
I actually really like both those bets. I think both of them are, I really like. I mean, I think this is gonna sound this is the dumbest thing I'll say the whole podcast. Berrettini's so cool. It's like, how can you root against that guy?
Exactly.
Anyone on planet Earth sponsored by Red Bull, you just count me in.
Exactly.
I'll root for that guy. So,
Hugo
Yeah.
Boss too. Like,
oh
come
yeah,
on.
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Uh,
So,
yeah. How about match of the week here, Eric?
Yeah, match of the week. I went with two of my favorite players on tour right now, Tommy Paul and Joao Fonseca.
boom.
So yeah, I actually watched this one live at a bar. I like pestered the owner to put the tennis match on. Like I even called them before. I'm like, "Hey, you guys have tennis channel?" He's like, "Yeah." But it was right during the Real Madrid Barcelona
Oh
match.
yeah.
Oh my god.
So like everyone in there was watching soccer. I was like, "Dude, just give me one TV. Come on, that's all I'm
You're
asking."
just sitting in the corner like
Yeah. And I would have to ask him to change it back every like 15 minutes because someone else would have him change it. So I was grinding watching this match. But anyway, like Tommy Paul is one of my favorite players, but I was rooting for Fonseca to win. I just like I don't know why I had an instinct there, but first set it was tight. It was just like for the first 3 or 4 games, Fonseca was easily holding serve and he was really pushing Tommy Paul. Like had numerous break points, but Tommy was holding on. He forced it to a tiebreaker. He got the upper hand. He won that set. And then second set, Tommy Paul broke Fonseca early. And I think most people were like kind of ready to count out Fonseca, but I had more faith in him just because of his run in Buenos Aires where he had to come back, I think, down like a break or two and then had match points against him. So I knew he had the mental willpower to like to stage a comeback, and he did. He evened it out. They went to another tiebreaker, but Tommy Paul got the best of him, won the match. It was a win-win for me because, like, even though I was rooting for Fonseca, I'm always happy to see the American win, to see Tommy Paul, and then just some crazy stats here. So Fonseca was 1 for 11 on break points and had 37 unforced errors, whereas conversely, Tommy Paul was 10 for 11 on saving break points and then even saved set points in both sets. So it was just like pretty admirable on both sides to see Fonseca, like such a young player, really push a more experienced guy, and like Tommy Paul. I think it was a statement that Fonseca, he may not be like here quite yet, but he's pretty damn close, and he's definitely pushing these guys. And last thing I'll say just about Tommy, his kick serve out wide was just saving it, because like every time he would get down like out, he would just hit that nasty kick serve out, and Fonseca just wouldn't be able to handle it. So very interesting match to say the least, and one of my favorites of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think with this match, it really kind of showed. It almost is a scary one to see for players looking at Fonseca like, okay, what's his potential looking like? Because when you look at those stats after the match, it's like, okay, he didn't perform super well in the clutch moments, and he wasn't super good with his unforced errors. And you think about if this guy over the next year is able to go from 37 to 17 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden he's going to just be dominating guys on the tour. And it won't matter if he's 1 of 11 on break points. But even with that, after a couple more years, he may be, obviously the experience of being there in these moments is just going to build and build. And he's not going to give up that many opportunities in a year or so from now based on expectations, I'd say. So definitely exciting to see from him, even though he lost that match.
Yeah, definitely. What about you? What was your match of the week?
I went with Zverev coming back versus Davidovich Fokina. It was an interesting match because honestly, Zverev looked very weak to start the match. He got kind of dominated early on, got broken in the first two service games, and it went on to a 6-2 set. And then he started kind of poorly in the second set, too. He got broken immediately. But then he started to kind of build momentum. He broke back this time. And then that set was just a battle back and forth. There were a few long games, but eventually went to a tiebreak, and Zverev took it there. And then the final set was close, where it was no breaks. Then right at the end, there was a momentum shift where Zverev got a break, had the chance to serve out the match, and Davidovich broke back, evened it up. And you're like, okay, maybe that's actually a momentum shift for Davidovich here, where he could build that into taking this last set. But in the end, Zverev was able to close it out. I think it was 7-0 in the final break or so. It was not close in the end, but a very close match overall, and a cool comeback. But one moment that stood out was when Zverev actually, a ball was hit and it appeared to be wide, but it was called in. And Zverev obviously contested it and goes up to the umpire and talking to him. And then he goes over and grabs his phone and takes a photo of the mark. And the mark was clearly not touching the line. But when you looked at the eagle eye, it landed right on the corner of it. And you look at the difference between the two, and it just kind of calls into question the whole eagle eye system, because unlike other courts on clay, you can see where the mark is. And yet the eagle eye had it in a completely different spot. So kind of calls into question that whole accuracy of the electric line calling overall.
Yeah, that was funny to see because it was all over the internet too. Like just Zverev pulling out his phone mid-match. I think Sabalenka did it the week before too. So yeah, these players just can't catch a break, man. When it's the umpire making an error, and then so they introduce electric line calling, and then that machine breaks down, and like they just can't seem to catch a break. Cole, did you happen to see that this week?
Yeah, and I just think it's funny how I do the same thing. You just blindly assume this like big machine somehow like perfectly shows every time where the ball lands. It's like, the same thing in soccer where you like this system that you don't really understand, and it just pops up on the screen and you're like, nope, your team got screwed. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's like this, like the god of soccer has chosen, or the god of tennis has chosen to screw you on this point. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I also saw they introduced like VAR, like replays or challenges because Monfils actually used one. I think in
Mm.
his first round, his opponent like it looked like he may have reached over the net to hit
Oh
a
yeah,
ball, and Monfils challenged it, and it was kind of like a football, like a challenge where the refs like go under the hood. They're like, "All right,
yeah,
what's it gonna be?" They're like, "All right, call stands." It was on his side of the net.
yeah.
Do like the
We gotta make sure there's not too much of that though, because
Oh,
tennis is
tell me about it, man.
the flow of stuff. Like when you watch March Madness, what game was it? There was a March Madness game like the last 29 seconds took 25 minutes or something this year. It's like we can't have that in tennis. Tennis has already got enough pace problems.
Exactly. It's already 3 hours long.
Yeah.
You
I
double
know.
that, it's like no one's gonna ever watch it.
Oh my
Yeah, yeah, throwing a 5-setter too. Jeez. But hey, cool. This was fun. Thank you for coming on. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So on Instagram and TikTok, it's Cole Schultz Tennis. Same on YouTube, Cole Schultz Tennis. And I post a lot of different stuff on different platforms. So you're looking for long form stuff is more YouTube, and then shorter stuff, stupid stuff, Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, Cole Schultz, first last name, tennis. Hopefully, I'll pop up for you.
Awesome, man. Well, good luck on your journey. Hope to see you really find success. And if you ever find a coach in New York City and need a place to stay, hit me up. I got you.
Yeah,
And
thank you
then
very much. Yeah,
yeah, man.
you never
Best of
know.
luck.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.